Welcome to Game 1, Match 1 of this league. The league list I used will be in the description of this video. This list is a slight deviation, having no Glacial Chasm right now, having no Tabernacle main right now. It was, I think, really good at the time. There's only a few cards that kind of flex around, which is Tabernacle, Glacial Chasm, Maze of Ith, and Blast Zone. Those 4 utility lands dip in and out of the sideboard and out of the main, depending on what decks are being played right now. Currently, I really like having Tabernacle in the main. And here we are, Game 1. My opponent is on Cloudpost. I am also on Cloudpost, but my Reclaimer lets me crop rotate and go get a bunch of cards that kill him, and I just line up a 20/20 kill. My opponent then just slams a Karn the Great Creator, but in order to slam it, has to tap a Karakas, so I think that's perfectly fine. But by next turn, I have a Pithing Needle to name Karakas, I have a Pithing Needle to name Karn. I just name the Karn, get the 20 in, because I know we got an Ensnaring Bridge off of it. See, that's the thing he fetched. So he just slams the Ensnaring Bridge and hides down against it. He's just making a ton of mana, playing an Eye of Ugin, tutoring around and casting a bunch of Thoran Dynamos and whatnot. So my opponent fetches the Thought-Knot Seer, plays it, and has already played that bridge. On his end step, I crop rotate around to go get my own Eye of Ugin because my one Cloudpost makes a very nice portion of mana. He does have Karakas for my Liege, and that's fine, but he's not doing it because he has an Ensnaring Bridge for my Liege, and it's game 1, so I don't really have a way to handle this outside of Ulamog. My opponent makes a ton of mana, tutors for Ulamog, and I should be dead, but I guess he misclicks and totally misses it, so I just do the same thing to him. I just tutor up Ulamog, and he just scoops, realizing exactly what happened. Hey, sometimes it happens. Sometimes your opponent plays a Karn the Great Creator, totally busted card that it is, and gets an Ensnaring Bridge stopping your 20/20. And hey, sometimes they misclick. Hey, it's fine. Alright, game 2, I know what I'm playing against, and I know looking at the mirror, really good cards include Force of Vigor, but I milligan that first hand because it doesn't have enough lands, and I get to a hand that's pretty competent in its ability to just cast Primeval Titan. It has a Cloudpost, it has a Needle for Karn, looks pretty decent. I pitch the redundancy and just dive into a bunch of Cloudpost stuff, hoping that a Needle on something important would be enough. 2 Grim Monoliths really is scary. I named Karn the Great Creator so he can't just Karn me, lattice me. Instead, he just Ulamogs me and slaps me down to 1 land in the incredibly swingy matchup that is this mirror. My Thought-Knot Seer does not see much good stuff. I'm able to take a scary Karn and leave him with an Emrakul and an Ugin. The reason I went for Karn is because he just blew up my Needle. Ugin's really bad in this matchup. I sideboarded mine out, so he just kind of has a Emrakul Promising that I'm scared of. His Ugin's fine-ish because it kills Reclaimer, but you kind of have to down-tick it. Sometimes you can't up-tick it, so strike against it. And then that's only 4 cards that it's really good against in my deck. If you're down-ticking an Ugin to get rid of Primeval Titan, you're probably not where you want to be. I just go down to 1 here, exiling a bunch of cards, knowing I'm pretty dead, and Ugin just kills me. So, hey, that happens sometimes too. So here we are in game 3 against the mirror match, except I am on the play, and you will see how important that is. My first hand is just Eye of Ugin and a bunch of green things, so that heads right back. The second hand is a Cloudpost, very important for the mirror match. Ulamog, which the mirror match revolves around. Mirage Mirror, which is just an extra Cloudpost. And then Force of Vigor with something to pitch, and a Once Upon a Time to go get another post land. Hand is so nice. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a peek with your Once Upon a Time. So you're going to see me do that. I take the Glimmerpost because it's another source of locus. Play out the Cloudpost. He does the same thing. Play Vesuva, which I rip off the top. Cloudpost perfectly for Mirage Mirror. And on turn 3, I get to just slap him with Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, blowing up both of his lands. It's kind of the grossest. He does play out 2 other target permanents, which is pretty powerful, but I can Force of Vigor this away, and I do that. Pull up both of his artifacts, and slap. Yeah, that's the game. That's it. The Cloudpost mirror is one of the craziest, most breakneck speed legacy mirrors. It is absolutely a die roll coin flip 2 ways from sideways, but it is a ton of fun. Here we are, game 1 of match 2. My opening hand is a bunch of Cloudposts that gets shut down by a single Wasteland, as well as an ultimate end goal, a card that's uncastable, and a Thought-Knot Seer. I bravely decide to keep this absolute pile of garbage, and swiftly regret what's going on. My opponent displays that they are a Cabal Therapy deck, and by ritualing out the Cabal Therapy instead of simply playing it, I know that they have the combo in hand. And if they don't, it's just this ultimate next level where they got me, but there is no way that that's the situation. That deck's so consistent. I know that those 3 cards in his hand put a Griselbrand into play. He therapies me, and I really don't want him to know what I have. I want him to think that I'm a Force of Will deck that just didn't have the Force of Will. So that's what I am planning on doing with that concede. Going into my sideboard, I'm just going to put in a bunch of permanent-based hate and hope that he doesn't bring in bounce spills. And that should let me cheese him game 2, just like he cheesed me game 1. And then, hey, we can always flip a coin for game 3. So here we are, game 2, match 2 of the league, after just conceding to a turn 1 brutal Cabal Therapy. I find a hand, ditch it back, and now I have a hand that has turn 0 interaction with a Bog in it, Dark Depths, crop rotation that I can't cast, some post lands, and a map. This is above average, ever so slightly, and on a multi-6, I would rather keep this than not keep it, and try my luck on 5. Send a card back, and I just start posting out. The Pithing Needle is really nice off the top. Gives me the ability to play out the map, and then play out the Needle naming Griselbrand. So his Entomb, he's forced to go get something different. He gets an Ashen Rider, and I have a response to that. Faerie Macabre comes in very clutch, and I'm even able to reanimate it because it's exhumed. So now I'm going to slap him for 2, pop my map, go get a Windswept Heath, so now I'm holding up Bog. Except I have the Bog in my hand, so this whole thing's a bluff. But it's really important that I do that. The alternative here was to not do that. By not doing that, by not at least representing that I could have crop rotation, I would have just put in the Bog and then bogged out nothing relevant. At least this way, it keeps the actual Bog itself as being possibly important. He reanimates a Chancellor. I Bog him now. It's a little late. He has a 5/6. That's pretty terrifying. Goes to combat. Swing on in. Crop rotate away. Pay for it. Go get a Maze of Ith. Hold back his flyer. Now I just need to draw into a win condition. Reclaimer does a great job. It also holds up multiple more Bogs. So this game 2 is looking like it's beginning to constrain my opponent, as I am mazing as one attacker, Pithing Needling down Griselbrand out of nowhere, and holding up Reclaimer now with Vesuva for Bog, so he can't even commit to his yard. So this is kind of how you beat Reanimators. You get enough stuff into play where you're just restricting them in absolutely ridiculous ways that they can't win. My opponent's just kind of, for entertainment value, I guess, Cabal Therapy is better. So we'll go on to game 3. Alright, here we are in our game 3 of our second match 3 of our second game. It's the second opponent I've had in this league, and this is the third game of it that we are playing together. So we're both pretty sideboarded up, and I know I'm playing against Redback Reanimator. So I decide to keep up my crop rotation while he is early on, and by keeping up the crop rotation, despite him revealing the Chancellor of the Annex, which is what he did right at the beginning of the game, I can use Once Upon a Time and throw that into the Chancellor of the Annex trigger in order to resolve crop rotation. So I was holding up Bog, even though I didn't have the mana to spend for Chancellor, because Once Upon a Time is so strong. And since he didn't end up doing anything on his turn, I just cast the Once Upon a Time, paying the mana for it, in order to 1, get through the Chancellor trigger, and 2, go find some stuff. I managed to bumble my way into an Elvish Reclaimer, and comboing between that the Windswept Heath, which would let you play it immediately, and also holding up crop rotation. I was able to crop rotate away to go get a tune, and put a Sphere into play. My opponent entombs in response to go get an Ashen Rider, figuring that with Reclaimer I can just go get a Karakas to handle his Griselbrand. He Animate Deads, which is an enchantment, back the Ashen Rider. And I don't really draw into anything. So some of the things that I'm keeping in mind is that Animate Dead is an enchantment that is blow-upable, which is pretty good. I don't have many ways to get rid of it. Against Black Red Reanimator, I sometimes bring in like 1 Force of Vigor, so if I brought one in this game, that's all I had. So I just decided to swing back some damage, because Animate Dead gives -1 attack, which gives me a bunch of extra turn, just like 1, which is enough, I figure. I'll probably draw into what I need. I draw Dark Depths, which is pretty strong, and I just pass to keep my Reclaimer up to go get a Thespian stage to go make my 2020. He slaps me for another 4. I go get a stage. Come to my turn, play the Depths, have a 3/4 Elvish Reclaimer, keep that up just in case. And then my opponent casts a 3 mana Entune for 2 Sphere of Resistance, and then realizes that he doesn't like the Sphere of Resistance and plays Serenity. So, stop. Let's figure out what we want to do here. I want you to look at the board state, and there's a few options. One, and most obviously, is make the 20/20 on his end step here, punch him in the face, make him block, but then he blocks, and then he exiles the 20/20. I lose 2 lands, and then on his next turn he'll Serenity, which will pop 2 Sphere of Resistance, and this will be gone, so the Animate Dead won't matter. So I think to myself, and I go, I can either do nothing effectively by making a 20/20 and swing it, or I can start ramping out into getting more Cloudposts, because the Serenity will blow up his Animate Dead if I just do nothing about it. And that's fine, because I just roll through. If you just make a bunch of mana, I can just fetch Thought-Knot Seers and just finish him out of the game by making a bunch of Thought-Knot Seers. So on his end step, I Eye instead, getting it tapped, which is fine. Activate it, do a little bit of mismath, realize that I only have 2 card types in my graveyard instead of 3, so I can't get anything promised in, and I just slam Thought-Knot Seer. Figuring, okay, this is fine. When I pass, it'll blow up Sphere, Sphere, Animate Dead, so I'll take the card from his hand, leave him with a Dark Ritual in his hand as the only card, and just let Serenity take care of his own card. He gets to target anything he wants. He unwisely goes after my Thought-Knot Seer to draw a card, the greedy bastard. And then casts an Exhume. Pretty good. Gets his Ashen Rider back, I get nothing back, and then he gets my Eye of Ugin. So that was a pretty good play by my opponent, but it doesn't kill me. I keep up my Elvish Reclaimer here. But since I don't have an Eye of Ugin to get to anymore, there's no real point in activating it and crawling through my deck. I start fetching to start a Maze of Ith train. Play the Pithing Needle. Name up Griselbrand to prevent that out. And just prepare myself to Maze of Ith down Ashen Rider for the rest of the game. I get Thoughtseize, so I just go get a Karakas instead. I realize that he Thoughtseized himself, realize that that's fine anyway, and just go get a Karakas still. He animate deads his card back, or is at least attempting to, and I'm able to bog him with Reclaimer, Vesuva, Bog, and now his graveyard is just this one animate dead, his hand is 2 cards, and he's not looking very strong. I have a ton of mana, nothing to do with it, and no green source. So hey, I've got problems too. What I would really like is my Eye of Ugin back. I crop rotate into a green source, play out a sphere, just to slow him down a bit. I'm holding up crop rotation to go get another Bog. I can just go get another Vesuva, copy my Bog, bog him out again. And since he is currently flashing Bath of Faithless looting, I realize that just bogging him out again is going to be fantastic. Maze him back. On his end step. Sack a land. Go get some life. Pithing Needle Griselbrand again. And now I'm outside of range of like randomly getting killed with like him hard casting Magus of the Moon and then hitting me for 5. So I let him Faithless looting. I respond. He thinks I probably don't have a 3rd Bog, which I don't, but I do have 2 Vesuva. So now he has 1 card in his graveyard, 1 card in his hand, an Ashen Rider that can't hit me because of Maze of Ith. I'm holding up a Karakas. I get to resolve a Thought-Knot Seer, take away his 1 relevant card, and leave him with a card in the graveyard and 0 cards in hand. I'm holding up Reclaimer just so I can go get more Glimmerpost effects in case I need to gain more life. But I don't really need 2 Bogs now. So I'll just gain some life. Find another Reclaimer. Swing in around him. It doesn't let him block for some reason. He complains about it in chat. I think that's perfectly fine to make a second maze, just in case. I have a map. Pop map. Popping map here is fantastic. Because it lets me go get a Thespian stage. How fantastic. So the reason I can't really like kill him with one of my maps is because map can't find either Dark Depths or Eye of Ugin. And by making 2 Maze of Iths, I can actually attack into him, mazing back the creature that he blocks. So I suddenly go into the aggro, start swinging with the intent of crushing in 2 more times with this 3/4 Elvish Reclaimer in order to kill him. Let him entomb. He entombs a Griselbrand, which I've Pithing Needled twice, and a Sphere of Resistance, and he can't do anything to stop him from getting smacked in the head by a 3/4 Elvish Reclaimer. Fantastic magic card. Here we are in Game 3. I suppose it's actually Match 3, Game 1. Yeah, Match 3, Game 1. We're going to go with that. And I confidently keep slamming a Cloudpost and promptly getting a Griselbrand shoved into my face on turn 1, which is just an absolute delight if you've ever played this format. There is nothing better than playing a tap land on turn 1 and then my opponent just tossing an 8 mana creature into play, drawing 14 cards, and then discarding to hand size when he's done ripping apart my hand. Just dandy. I draw a Maze of Ith, which has a thin margin to get me the fuck out of this awful situation, by preventing Griselbrand from gaining him any life. And hey, I put a Mirage Mirror into play, figuring I can make my own Griselbrand, and my Griselbrand will be better. It'll be fantastic. Because it'll force him to block, because he is underneath 7 life. He draws some cards, makes me discard an Oracle of Moldaya, and then animate Deadsit like a freaking madman. I say, sure thing, opponent, make my own Oracle of Moldaya, play some cards off the top of my library, and bog them out. Mirage Mirror turns back into nothing at the end of the turn, and I can still Maze of Ith down that Oracle. I think, wow, this is just dandy. I was like, hey, why don't I just take 2 damage here? Then I can slap him for 2, which cuts him off of fetch lands. So I hit my opponent down to 1 life with Oracle of Moldaya, a crazy sentence that no one should ever say, and my opponent concedes, because Oracle of Moldaya, which he controls, because he reanimated it out of my graveyard, got copied by my Mirage Mirror, and then I punched him for 2, because he was on 3 life, the fool. Fantastic game. Just what this player deserves. Alright, here we are in Game 3, Match 3, Game 2, excuse me, Match 3, Game 2. I mulligan down, pitch a card. Expedition Map's not that great in combo matchups because it's just not quite fast enough. Keeping Once Upon a Time in a turn 1 crop rotation, figuring that I could technically get Faerie Macabre off of Once Upon a Time, so that's sort of having turn 0 interaction. My opponent Cabal therapies me, I respond by Once Upon a Timing, and then bogging him. The Once Upon a Time eats the Chancellor trigger, so then I get to resolve my crop rotation, which means I get to resolve the Bog trigger. I realized that he was Cabal therapying himself the whole time. He reanimates Griselbrand and proceeds to make me look like a freaking idiot. I draw the Pithing Needle because never lucky, slam it into play, name that Griselbrand, and now my opponent has a 7/7 lifelink flyer, wall at 4 life. And I have a Mirage Mirror in my hand. Take my 7. He just keeps going. The Animate Dead comes. The Ashen Rider enters the battlefield. My Pithing Needle goes far, far away from where it started. And Griselbrand keeps on doing the crazy things that Griselbrand does. Please, please ban this card. As soon as they ban Ren, they need to remember that this card needs to also go. Whenever you're in your final round playing against the Reanimator opponent, and you're looking for a hand to keep, you're doing nothing short of the absolute most amount of prayer. So when I saw that opening hand, and I saw the Bog in my hand, which I really like to have in my deck so I can crop rotate into it, I mulligan it, and then I'm met with this hand. This hand is a travesty, it's upsetting, and it makes me depressed. But if his hand is worse than mine, by a decent margin, or if he just keeps something that's a little too slow, this hand can Pithing Needle down Griselbrand, followed up with a Thought-Knot Seer, quickly kill him with the Stage Deaths combination in my hand, or I can also go get Expedition Map if he's really weird about his graveyard kill. Excuse me, use the Expedition Map to go get Bog. Figuring that I'm probably going to have to do that, but if I don't have to, I can just go get the depths then. I put the depths at the bottom of the library, keeping the cards that I want a bit more. My opponent does the old loot. Tosses in a Griselbrand. That's not that scary. I play Expedition Map and pray. I just pray. My opponent has fast mana. He has fast reanimation, and he even has a Griselbrand. But that's just a 7/7 with lifelink, and I am not scared. I go and I get a craft Karakas, and I punish him for being a dumb idiot and not playing around Pithing Needle. My opponent just plays a land and passes. I take a deep breath of relief, realize that I can actually start hard casting Thought-Knot Seers. I take the shenanigans that's in his hand, which explains why he got the Griselbrand into play with such confidence, and exile that thing. Nice dredge card, idiot. My opponent like the lucky person he is, rips the enemy dead off the top, gets the archetype of Endurance into play against all odds. And I got nothing to do besides just play out some Thought-Knot Seers. I figure having 2 of them out prevents him from being able to attack with Archetype, because then I can just trade in 1 for the Archetype and slam him to death with the other one. Holding up 2 Thought-Knot Seers or just pass the turn. And here's where this game starts to get really, really weird. He realizes he can't attack into me, and we're both at such high life totals that we don't really know what to do, so I just kind of end up passing here, keeping up Mirage Mirror in case I have to do something super fast. He plays the Mirage Mirror, he plays Magus of the Moon. In response, I create a second force in case I rip Prime Time. Realize that, hey, I actually could do stuff with my own Mirage Mirror by copying Thought-Knot Seer. Just completely forget about it for another turn. But I'm holding up Surgical, and I'm able to Surgical the thing that he's trying to reanimate. All's looking good. 2 Pithing Needles naming Griselbrand. Mirage Mirror is fine. It could always turn into a surprise blocker. And then I see Faerie Macabre. And I know I don't really want to start swinging into his board. So I think that I can cast the Faerie Macabre because I notice it has 1, which I had not noticed until this game. So I cast Faerie Macabre, which comes off of the swamp that I copy and then the other swamp that I copy. Faerie Macabre comes out, and then I just start copying it because he doesn't have any flyers and beating him in the head for 4. Definitely the most abstract way to play against Reanimator, but if he doesn't have a flyer out, 4 damage a turn, it's kind of like clocking someone with a Delver. So I figure I'm just being a good Delver deck, clogging up the board, hitting him with flying threats, and being a general nuisance with miscellaneous artifact sideboard cards, in this case Pithing Needle. And these 2 Sphere resistance are also being just fantastic. My opponent unmasks himself, which pitches an Ashen Rider, which is terrifying. Makes me very happy that I have 2 Griselbrands, but makes me realize that he can take out my 1 threat, so I go real deep on a far, far swing. Because this takes him all the way down to 1, meaning that he would have to handle my Faerie Macabre immediately, or he dies. Since Exhume gets to put in my own Thought-Knot Seer, I'm perfectly okay with letting all of that happen. I Thought-Knot Seer in, Thought-Knot Seer takes stuff, and here we are at my turn. Make 3 4/4s, get into the zone. He's only got 1 life, which forces him to block every one, which gives me back all of my mana. And then I get to just activate my Eye of Ugin, play my Thought-Knot Seer, strip cards out of his hand, play another Thought-Knot Seer, strip more cards out of his hand. And if you've noticed, on his upkeep, I have been activating Mirage Mirror to turn it into a Spear of Resistance, which has been that's just fantastic. There's nothing better than doing that against a combo deck. Just pitch out Emrakul the Promised End, cast that bad puppy, activate, get into the red zone. Figure I probably have the kill here. He blocks, and then dies. Fantastic game. Here we are in game 4, right? This is our 4th match of the league in the first game of our little set of 3. And I got a great hand. Cloudposts, usable crop rotations, acceleration, and a tutor effect. This is really all you ever want to see. It's perfect stuff. Perfect stuff. Keep the hand. I am met with Polluted Delta into the island that normally screams I'm a Miracles player, but then it's a Delta sequence. I play a Reclaimer in case it doesn't flip. And as I am the luckiest person in the universe, it doesn't really end up mattering. My opponent has to brainstorm because of my insurmountable amounts of luck in order to design a flip. Hits me for 3, does not play a land. I get baited into getting dazed. I figure I might as well smack him for 1 for his insolence. And my opponent's only on 1 land. So far that's fine. That probably means he won't waste land. plays another Delver. I realize that if that flips, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So I try and Thought-Knot Seer away like a daze. Then I realize that his whole hand is stacked with counterspell. Stacked with counterspell. I take the bolt so he can't kill my Reclaimer if he draws red mana, and that he has no other out because these are all just ridiculous stacks of cantrips. He flips over a Ponder, probably one of the ones from his hand, because he brainstorms. He's just got a bunch of cantrips. I stopped keeping track of them. Realize that I'm just going to get smacked for a nice 6 damage every turn. Get my Mirage Mirror, Force of Will, big sad. And don't swing back at him, even though I probably should have dealt 5 to him. I'm keeping Reclaimer up to go either gain life or get me to double green, which is what I really want. I get to another Glimmerpost, gain enough life to survive 2 more turns in case of this Green Sun Zenith gets something wrong with it. Green Sun for 4, because Green Sunning for 6 is too dangerous. Oracle of Muldaya comes into play, whips a card off the top. I realized that I could have just gotten Ramunap and then brought back Glimmerpost, and that would have been, like, probably even better. But in this case, I get a little bit deeper, I get to keep on flipping over my flipping over my library. I play a bunch of lands, and I just get to the point where there's an Emrakul sitting on top of my deck. And I have so much mana. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, I think my opponent conceded here, right? As you can see, we have entered Game 2. My opponent is on the play. We did win the first time we met, and now we are on our Game 2 of this match. My hand is a Ramunap Excavator. Who doesn't love Ramunap Excavator? What a great card. 2 Pithing Needles means that I can Pithing Needle down a Chase the Mind Sculptor, and I can also Pithing Needle down a Brennan 6, but I would probably Pithing Needle down the Wasteland first, and follow that up with Pithing Needling down either Wasteland a second time or Ren, if I suspect my opponent has it. My opponent has a lot of basic island, so I don't suspect them to be on any other colors besides just the blue and the red that I saw, figuring that they're probably just blue-red Delver. I try to go for a quick 20-20 kill, knowing that I'm going to deal some damage to myself with the Ancient Tomb, figuring that that's, in the grand scheme of things, okay. My opponent Chain Lightnings me, which really starts to speed up the clock. Combined with a few Ancient Tomb activations, it starts to look a little sketchy. Mostly because all my lands are coming into play tapped. It's starting to look like it's just not going to come together for me. On my end step, I crack my map and get bolted. A big sadness. But the second bolt is the greater sadness. So, we go on to Game 3. Or at least I'll be on the... So here we are in the last game of our match. I get a hand of varied things. I end up keeping it because 2 stages in a mirror means I typically have a pretty good access to a 20-20, and a needle can stop a wasteland. My opponent mulligans to 6, and I'm looking pretty optimistic at this game. Needle down wasteland right off the bat. Give him no opportunity to daze my 1-drop. See him have not a threat as his turn 1 play, as he plays the Ponder and passes. I get the second Pithing Needle. I decide not to play it. In retrospect, I probably should have and just named Wasteland again, or named a fetch land. And here I decide not to play Mirage Mirror out into a daze. So my opponent fetches around, has a 3-2, starts hitting me, starts the clock. I I realized that I have to get to a Dark Depths really fast, and even when I do, I'm still going to have to get through a flyer, which is kind of a pain in the butt. I copy into getting a second forest just because, and I draw the crop rotation, figuring it's fine to just shoot it off now and see if it resolves, because if it doesn't, then I get to jam other things. If it does resolve, my opponent plays a Wasteland, has a Dreadhorde Arcanist. I think that's perfectly fine. I'm going to play around like a Vapor Snag or Submerge by casting Thought-Knot Seer. Thought-Knot Seer doesn't really get anywhere, and he just ends up having a ton of damage. It just DPSs me out of the game. Because Dreadhorde Arcanist flashing back a bolt, giving Monastery Swift Spear some prowess is really, really fast damage. Because of that, I lose a bunch of health. My opponent Chain Lightnings me in the wrong order. And I realize that even if I make a 20-20 and I block his Insectile Aberration, he kills me if he has anything that deals 1 damage. And a Monastery Swift Spear is exactly something that deals 1 damage. So that was kind of upsetting. But I respected him having like any kind of interaction for the 20-20 by jamming Thought-Knot Seer into a daze, figuring that that was fine. But the Monsters supposed to be a Dreadhorde Arcanist and the bolts just put on so much pressure at the end of the time in this game. Here we are in our final match of this league, which we are currently 3-1 in, trying to get to that nice 4-1. Getting into it, the opening hand is very solid. It's looking for a green source, but Once Upon a Time does a great job of finding that typical. In a awesome turn of events, I see horrible things happen to me. As I Once Upon a Time for a Thought-Knot Seer, as my opponent just puts a Sire of Insanity into play and makes me pitch my hand. Upsides. 1. If I get to a Maze of Ith, I'm fine. 2. He's only hitting me for 6 damage a turn. That's fine. That means his clock's not actually that fast. Another nice thing about Sire of Insanity is it prevents him from accumulating enough cards in his hand to do anything relevant either. Provided I just keep drawing lands, which is statistically more relevant for my deck than his, I can possibly get to the point where a top-decked map or top-decked map or an elf or a crop rotation could get me to the Maze of Ith to survive. Sadly, Emrakul Promised End, I don't have enough card types, and I have to toss it back. And I just don't draw into a way out of turn 1 Sire of Insanity. Hey, it happens. Sometimes you get cheesed. Here we are, getting ready to play against Black-Red Reanimator for the manyth time in a row. Playing a lot of Black-Red Reanimator in this league in particular. I Once Upon a Time, get my Heath, holding up my Bojuka Bog, figuring that that's probably better than Pithing Needling down Griselbrand. My opponent just goes for the breakneck speed Reanimate. I get him with a quick crop rotation. Go fetch out my Bog. Bog him good, bog him well. My opponent has an enemy dead in his graveyard and 2 cards in his hand, and I Pithing Needle down Griselbrand twice. So the sad thing is I had to crop rotate away a forest. That sucks, because now I don't have a green source. So now I can't use my other crop rotation or my Elvish Reclaimer. So I just try and gain some life, copy with my Thespian stage, gain a little bit more life, which helps to undo the life I lost to that fetch. If I can get above 21 health, that means I need to be hit with Griselbrand 4 times to die, which is pretty relevant. I play out the Reclaimer, because I finally have green, figuring that holding up crop rotation for Bog isn't as important right now. My opponent reveals that he does have a Shenanigans, and he just keeps on entombing things and reanimating things. I respect the Magus of the Moon, make another source of green, and realize that, hey look, that's Primeval Titan. I cast that, realize that he's got 2 mountains, and he can't do anything, so he can't really cast anything in his deck. So all I can do is beat him down, because he can't reanimate any of his own cards unless he draws a non-fetch land Black Souls. Hey, Pithing Needle. Why not? He just scoops it down. So I guess my opponent realizes that his Magus of the Moon reanimation just doesn't end up working, and I just beat him down with Prime Time in the second that he has to block with Magus of the Moon to prevent himself from dying, or anything like he loses this Magus, this Dark Depth flips into a 20/20. So then he has to deal with me having a 20/20, which Reanimator actually is, it struggles doing when you already have one, because it requires him to go get to Ashen Rider, and since he doesn't have his lands right now, everything is such a mess for him that he can't really do anything, and that's why he concedes kind of early. Alrighty, final game, final round, Black-Red Reanimator. I keep an opener that does not have access to a quick Crop Rotation or Elvish Reclaimer, but does have access to a quick Karakas, as well as a Spear of Resistance on turn 2. My opponent turn 1's a Griselbrand, and I am terrified. I am bracing myself as I get unmasked to high heaven, realizing he cannot take my Karakas, much like they cannot take my freedom or my land. I play a Karakas and prepare myself to bounce him as soon as he goes into his combat step. My opponent plays a Lotus Petal, signifying that he has a ton of mana, so my Sphere of Resistance wouldn't have really mattered anyway, because he ripped it out of my hand violently. His Exhume puts a Sire into play, which sucks for me, and now I just have Karakas Ancient Tomb, but we're in the same situation where he has no cards, I have no cards. If I draw any way to stop this Sire of Insanity from beating me brainless, then I'm gonna be okay. Also, if I can find anything to take out his yard, he has no cards. If he finds one more mana, he can Faithless Looting, Flashback if it's red. But I get a Mirage Mirror, confidently play that, even though it puts me dead to one more attack by lowering my health from 14 to 2 hits from Sire. But it does give me the ability to make my own Sire and block back. I just make my own Sire and swing, realizing that he was at 6 health the whole time. My opponent just completely forgetting that he has a life total too, that he expended their Griselbrand, and I slapped him back. So, hey, if it works.